Good
And
morning.
guys,
Good
the
morning.
big topic today, how are you, legend? The big topic today is commercial. Nathan's a commercial ninja. And what we wanted to talk about today is the biggest trend that we've seen in commercial in the last probably 3 to 6 months. It's happening, chop suey, monkey magic. And Nathan's gonna have it. Nathan's going to have a chat with us about it. So, Nath, what are you seeing at the moment, buddy? You said you're seeing some pretty crazy stuff with commercial, and it's different to how it used to be.
Definitely. I feel now, I think let's look at offices, for instance, especially bigger companies that, demanded a ton of office space. You had employees there, everyone coming in all in the one go, leaving all at the same time. But now, post-pandemic, you've got a lot of people who essentially, you don't really need to go to the office anymore. There's the luxury of working from home. Now, whether some think of that as a luxury or not, it's completely up to them. But there's that, let's say, flexibility. But with that flexibility now, you've got a lot of buildings, you've got a lot of office spaces that are left vacant. And a lot of people, especially owners, landlords, are wondering, what do we do with that space now? If there's that flexibility now, what do we do? And so it's that question of, do you break it up? Do you turn it into something completely different? And it leaves you with a world of options, some that are willing to explore, others kind of feel like, well, it's kind of out of my hands. So what do you do? And I think one of the questions I have for you is, what have you seen on your side, apart from just me seeing, for instance, office space? What are you seeing people wanting to do with bigger spaces now?
I think that it's sort of that macro, micro, that sort of, those micro spaces are getting really popular. So I think landlords don't need to be concerned that a commercial landlord, stuff's getting rented on the northern beaches, that's for sure, rented well. But it's traditionally they're carving it up. And you know what, people are really tended to really conservative with, or would you say, with their selection these days, where they're happy to start a new business, happy to make a commitment, but they're a little bit more conservative on how much they're going to need, and because of that remote workplace sort of situation.
Definitely. It's definitely being cautious on the commitment side of things, and it's kind of almost wondering, all right, well, if we are going to take on the commitment, how much of a commitment do we need? How much of the space we really want to use? And something I feel like I've definitely noticed, and we lean more so over onto the retail side of things, is people want to jump in with these other businesses, almost work side by side in the space that they have, helping the other business out, because obviously a lot of businesses did feel the bit of the pinch, obviously, with everything that happened during the pandemic breakdown and everything. So it's like, all right, we share the space with you, we work side by side, we work together, we make our businesses strong. I feel that landlords are happy that way, because you're not losing out at all. It's just maximizing the space there, and again, it even adds greater exposure, I think, for the business, for the property as a whole. That's retail.
Cross-pollinate each other.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel when you can do something like that, it obviously brings a lot more people in. It makes places look busier again, because it was really sad to see, of course, that a lot of prime areas, and for instance, Manly, the Corso, for instance, it thrived on tourism, and seeing it kind of decline slowly but surely. But with now people thinking a little bit more outside the box and going, okay, well, look, if we can put more than just the one business in the space that's there, it can create that spark again and bring people in and change it for the better, I feel. So it's definitely not bad at all. It's just really thinking what to do more so. But I think
Go on. There's that saying, it's necessity is the mother of invention. And I think, someone like the Corso is driven by necessity now, where they're realising that necessity is no longer, certainly for the short term, being tourism. So that it's driven other applications for these shops.
Definitely. And look, the reality of it is that food's always going to be a necessity. Like, people are always going to need food to eat, to live, to enjoy. So I'm definitely noticing that a lot of people now, they've almost been harboring these ideas on like the next big trend to break out with when it comes to food. And so definitely taking advantage of that. But the other interesting one, and I thought I'd bring up with you, and it's something it hasn't even changed even before that 3-month period that we had of lockdown, is that people love storage. And, you know, a lot of these bigger places now, the ideas that some people are springing up is, well, why can't we convert it into some form of really, you know, almost sexy, high-end kind of storage? And I don't know how you feel about that, but do you think that there's something going on there on that side of things in terms of commercial? Or?
Well, you know what? We call it storage. The consumers of storage call it, I need more space inside. So I, you know, when you're in a house, when you're in a 2-bedroom or 1-bedroom unit or a 3-bedroom unit, and suddenly you and your wife and your child are working from home, schooling from home, it's just like, where do we put this shit? We can move out of this place, or we can push that, and that into a storage room, potentially bust it out later if we need it. And also, I think people are spending more time. There are markets where, like, if you look at consumer products, they've gone bananas, and you have to store them somewhere. So anyone who's bought a surf, decided to get into paddleboarding or a sport or a hobby through COVID, that needs storage as well. So I think that's been a big push for storage.
Definitely. And that's the thing too, with a lot of people that were more or less sitting at home wondering what to do with their lives. The big push on online sales has gone crazy. And then when you get all those stuff coming in the house and it's like, what do I do with it all now? Yeah, definitely storage, big key. I've definitely noticed. But as well, it's quite interesting that I'm getting a lot of businesses that don't necessarily want to go straight into a warehouse, you know, big warehouse, roller door, you know, and just pack it with all sorts. They almost want to start off in a storage unit and basically break out from there slowly but surely. So it's like testing the waters. So storage units act as like that kind of base for a business.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yep. And it's just that kind of like, all right, well, look, if I can get a storage unit that's just big enough that I can stack some things in, I can come by, you know, every day or every second day, dump some things in there, put some things in the van and just take off again. I want to see how the business goes. And that's just a really small commitment you've got to make, because it's nothing that's essentially really locking you in for a long-term period. You know, you can test the waters for 6 months and say, all right, where are we at after the 6-month period? Have I outgrown the space? Great. And then, you believe it or not, the line of people that just ask, when's the next one available? When's the next one available? You're never really missing out as a landlord when you've got something like that in your back pocket. So storage, definitely a big one. I'm just thinking.
So and where that's changed with commercial space, which is what we're talking about, guys and girls today. The chop change that we've seen in commercial in the last 3, 6, 9, 18 months. It's interesting, and I guess the way you could also explain what you were just saying as well is it's the seed. The seed of a business used to be in the garage, or the seed of the business used to be jumping into a warehouse, but there's now sort of something in between where people can seed their business. In commercial, storage is definitely one of those. Chopping up spaces is definitely one of those existing spaces. It's not trendy to have huge, massive plates anymore. People would rather that sort of 50 to 150 metre squared plates. Lately on the northern beaches, that's the trend that we're seeing. Anything else?
Look, in terms, so we've kind of tapped on the whole retail side, smaller spaces, hybrid space of, you know, putting a couple businesses together. We've looked at storage, for instance, as now being kind of the breakthrough point for a business to flourish. I'm kind of thinking, what do you foresee now the next, 6 to 12 months? What's a projection that you kind of see beyond what we've just spoken about?
Look, I think certainly the international market's going to come back. I think it's going to come back strong. People are going to start consuming in Sydney, Australia, property when they're coming over the borders. Expats are definitely coming back this time of year. I'm seeing that a lot. And in addition to all of that, I think a lot of key workers are coming back. So we've had a big labour shortage across Australia, particularly every time you're in a cafe or you're talking to a business owner, they will always tell you that staffing is harder. So I think that the wave of those people coming through are going to push that necessity for commercial. I think you're right, sharing. You know what? Another thing about sharing spaces that you've spoken about, or smaller spaces, it's also underpinned by technology. You can actually do a lot more in a smaller space with a computer. You're not dispatching from that space. Often you've got Amazon selling it for you, or eBay selling it for you, and managing the dispatch and postage and that sort of stuff, or freight forwarders doing it for you, so you don't need as much space. And in addition to that, CCTV and security systems, access control, that's changed. So now if you're sharing the space, you don't have that security problem to worry about stuff getting stolen in your space, because you've got CCTV managing it. So you don't mind sharing, a hairdresser sharing with a nail bar, for instance, because there's going to be no polish that's going missing when you've got a CCTV camera straight above. Do you know what I mean? So, in all seriousness, it's cost effective now. It's easy to manage that now, and I think it's a money maker.
That's a big one. I didn't think about it like that, and that's huge. That definitely saves a lot of money there in that respect, especially over a course of time. I've been noticing now, obviously, with people chopping things up and breaking them down and stuff like that, that one of the key things to do, if any given person in the real estate industry in commercial, is almost like you want to reach out to these bigger companies, you want to reach out to these bigger buildings, and you kind of want to gauge with the owners where they're at, to make them feel a little bit secure that, okay, yes, your property's more or less probably been sitting there vacant for this point in time, but we can do something. Well, we can guide you, we can help you, turn it into something.
Yeah, I love that.
And giving that sense of like, hey, we care. We're not going to just leave it there. And you're not going to try and just leave it there. We're going to give you a push. We're going to give you an idea and see if you can make something happen with it.
Well, look at your client in Piedmont.
That's incredible.
That's an example of a client, a landlord that's just looking around at his space, thinking, maybe, rings us, shows us the space, and then which is allowed $20,000 a year extra for him from storage. So out of nothing, and $20,000 over a 10-year period is $200,000, just because he spoke to his real estate agent and his agent. We organised it all. We organised the locks, the doors, the walls, the paintwork, the cleanup. We'd organised it all for him, so he really didn't have to lift it. The hardest finger he had to lift was the phone call to dial our number.
That's it, and it's just incredible.
I don't think that's a show.
I think it's a wrap, is it?
I think that's a show. So chop commercial.
Chop it all up, turn it into something great, and don't feel like your space is wasted. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you, Mark.
Don't waste it. That's it. Take care, legend. Thanks, Nate. You're a legend. Cheers, bud.
Bye.